Hi, welcome to another episode of Producer Showcase. I'm Steve Poulos. And as I said on the last show, we're still looking for somebody that may be interested in hosting a show or learning cameras or, just overall production, helping us with equipment, whatever. So if you think you might be the person that could help us, by all means, come on down, 15 Columbus Way in Biddeford, and we'd be glad to help you. We'll actually have you, and we'll take you in, we'll show you around, and you'll be trapped here forever, like the rest of us. But you'll enjoy every minute of it. So anyway, this is Producer Showcase, as I said, and we usually try to highlight new shows coming up and also persons that have been on a lot of our shows. Today is a perfect example of that. We have a couple of young ladies that we know. A lot of you have heard the names, I'm sure, and you definitely are going to know the organization that they're involved with. And it is that time of year again, and you probably can't tell by me if you see me in my short sleeve and shorts on, but it is that time of year again when the service that they provide is really kind of comes to the forefront, and the rest of us actually, I guess, see what some folks have to go through, and that is food pantry. And as earlier when I was talking with these folks, I did mention that, of course, in years past, most of us had maybe good jobs, really high-paying jobs, and things were rosy, and you didn't ever think of food pantries or any kind of benefit programs. But as you well know, the economy has gone south for a lot of people, and it doesn't matter what type of work you're in. I mean, it struck people on the lowest-paying jobs and some of the higher-paying jobs. So I think we all can maybe relate a little bit more closely to the folks that are in trouble. And why it's this time of year, it's even more important to kind of bring that, to light. So I'd like to introduce my guest today. We have Kathy Duke and Jody Bissonette, and I keep calling her Laurie. I'm not sure why. I don't even know any Laurie Bissonette. But anyway, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
And as I mentioned in the open of the show, it is that time of year again. And I guess it's kind of strange this year. We've had so many things go on. I think people tend to forget the plight of some of the folks out there that need a helping hand. And your organization, Stone Soup Food Pantry, definitely provides probably the most basic need that everybody has. Can you talk a little bit about that, maybe, Kathy?
Well, it's people, when I started volunteering in 2002, we were open 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but there was no canned goods, no fresh vegetables or that. It was basically sweets and breads and maybe some English muffins or bagels. And then we met Jody, who was York County Food Rescue and Wayside Food Rescue at that point. And she got us into getting canned goods and things from the supermarket. But if we did 30 people in a day, that was remarkable. And some weeks it was 30 people, like 10 each one of the days. Now we're doing at least 80 families Monday, and as many as 70, 80 on Monday and Wednesday. It's wow. The numbers are astronomical. They're through the roof. A lot of people I noticed that we haven't seen in many years are back again. Their food stamps got cut. Their copay on their meds went up. People are making decisions that they shouldn't have to make, about do I get my meds? Do I do this? Do I eat?
It's tough. And I apologize at the open. I did forget to mention York County Food Rescue. I said Stone Soup Food Pantry.
Well, I originally started
as Wayside
as Wayside Food Rescue when I first started working with Kathy, and went on Kathy's board for quite a while, and we do work very closely together, as I do with a lot of other pantries. But I am York County Food Rescue, and we give to 47 food pantries and soup kitchens, which includes Kathy's food pantry as well. So
That's amazing, because that was a big omission there. So
That's
I
okay.
apologize for that. But, as you talk about, I mean, this is like something that, and we did talk about this briefly before the show, that, I mean, this is the most basic necessity. People can't accomplish anything. I mean, let's face it, if somebody is out of work and they have no income coming in, if they're not eating, they can't even look for work. I mean, they can't do anything unless you
Right.
eat and sustain yourself.
And the big myth too is that some people are working, but they're working 1 and 2 jobs at a minimal amount. And with the rents so high and the price of gas and oil so high, especially this time of year, it doesn't matter that they do have a job, they still need help with the food. Because as Kathy said, to choose between food, clothes for the kids, and the basic medications and things, I mean, it just can be very overwhelming for somebody. And without, as you say, without them having the proper nutritious food, we all have our nights where we don't sleep and we can't function, but think about not eating right and how much, it affects everybody in every walk of life.
And that's, I mean, really a good point. I recall years ago, I had retired from the post office, and you get to meet a lot of people in that job, both out on the street, but also as a window clerk. And one of the things that I noticed was an older woman that would come in, and I apologize for that phone.
That's okay.
Probably left it in here. But the issue with some people, and this was a perfect example, this woman was probably in her 80s. And the problem with her was she was very proud, as we discussed, I think, earlier. And she didn't want people to know her situation. But she did have a connection with a place that had pet food available. And what she would do was get cat food and, dog food and stuff. And she was literally, supplementing her food intake with animal food. And this was, I will say this was actually 1993, so this was a while ago. But does that, I mean, when you say, I mean, let's face it, people can barely, even if you have health insurance, even good insurance, and you have a good job, the co-pays and even the medications and stuff involved can actually take a person who is getting by and actually push them well below, what they need to basically survive. And then they have to decide medicine, food.
It's true.
Do you see that?
Well, one of the things that I try and say whenever I go and talk at different places is that it's people like you and I. You can't tell when you walk down the street, there's no way to point out she needs food, he needs food, they need housing, because there is no look of a hungry person. When I talk at schools, I'll say, you kids look around, and 1/3 of the kids in your class are what they call hunger insecure. So it's everyday people. There are people living under bridges. There are people, that are homeless, that are couch hopping. There are all those things going on right in our own town that people don't even realize. And it's gotten worse. It's gotten a lot worse. I keep numbers for all the pantries and soup kitchens on how many people they're helping. And everybody's numbers have gone up at least 1/3, if not more, on the amount of people that they're helping now. I mean, and at this time of year especially, and I don't know what's going to happen with the food stamp cuts. I mean, they used to get enough through the food stamps to be able to cover them about 3 weeks out of the month. Kathy can tell you, when that fourth week in the month came along, everybody was at the food pantry. Now they've got enough for 2. So the need is getting greater and greater and greater. It's all we can do is do our best and hope that things will change. But
Jody gives food out according to how many people that you're feeding. But all of us are getting so many people that it's just gone up through the roof. The rest, we have never, since I've been involved in this since 2002, we have never had to buy food. I cannot tell you how much money we're trying to raise just to keep the basics on the shelf, like spaghetti, peanut butter, in something that can make a big meal. Tomato sauce is
Cereal.
cereal. I mean, what house can be without cereal? I mean, that's the kid's staple. So if you just take peanut butter jelly in cereal, what it's costing today, my doctor said to me, we keep telling our patients to eat healthy. They can't afford to eat healthy.
That is the point that I was thinking of as we were discussing that. And I do research a lot of this stuff, and I'm amazed at, things that I didn't know, and I'm sure the average person doesn't know. And one of the things, they talk about diabetes being up. They talk about problems, people with weight. They talk about all these issues that a lot of them are directly affected by the type of food that we eat. And when but when you're at that level where you're trying to survive, you try to buy maybe the type of product that stretches, that goes the farthest, like maybe macaroni products and stuff. And of course, I learned that people with problems with their sugar intake, of course, some of those carbohydrates and stuff actually convert to sugar. There's a lot of, I'm sure there's a direct relationship to the people that are poor and to health problems. And, it's cheaper to actually help people to eat well, really, than it is to fix them after the fact.
Well, you hear that all the time. You hear that all the time. And people think, if you look at somebody and they're a big person, they think, oh, they're eating. They don't have a problem. There's plenty of food in their house. And they're actually starving because of what they have to eat. And there's been a lot of studies, a lot of movies, a lot of different things that show even people on food stamps. If you go in a store and you try and buy, say you have 3 children and a husband and a wife, you try and buy 5 apples and look at the price of that.
That's right.
And then you go and you say, oh, look what a bag of chips costs.
Right.
Well, what you're trying to do is make meals out of and make it stretch as far as you can.
Right.
So it's so much cheaper to buy the junk with the processed stuff in it than it is to buy the good things. I went to buy something to bake a homemade meal because I love to cook, and it cost me 3 times as much to buy the ingredients to make a homemade meal as it would have if I went and bought something to microwave.
That's right.
So I mean, it's the whole thing is imbalanced now. It's really, really imbalanced. And as Kathy says, she's buying food now. And I can remember a time when we used to have a food drive a month. Now, every single weekend, one of Kathy's folks is out there doing food drives, because the people who used to give for the food drives are now the ones that need the help themselves. And the people that could afford to give you a bag of groceries can now give you 1 can. And it's amazing that the people that do donate are people that have been there themselves or know of the situation. And a lot of times, you hear it all the time at a food drive, they'll hand you a can and they'll say, I know it's not much. But that 1 can makes such a difference.
And then if you were to examine those folks, find out that, gee, they're at barely above the level of, as far as income or, ability to purchase food and stuff, that the people that they're trying to help. A lot of times that's the case too. It's not the people that are very wealthy usually. It's the average everyday person that's struggling themselves that tend to help.
Well, and you talk about that, and I know from experience, having talked at a lot of different businesses and things, many businesses, and not all, so I don't want to categorize everybody, but many businesses used to have a giving time, where if the employees gave, then the company would match it. And with all the troubles with the businesses and stuff, a lot of the businesses have stopped doing that. So because it's of course the bottom line, and they have to have their money coming in. So many of the people that used to donate, through the food businesses and all different things, are selling on the secondary market to make that extra profit. And if you go into a grocery store and you look, the shelves used to always be packed full. Now you'll see 2 or 3 cans in the front row because everything's computerized. So there is no extra ordering. So there is no, oh, gee, we ordered too much, let's give it to a food pantry type thing. It's all very, very set in what they order and what they give away. So it's gotten really, really hard to go out there and get all this food that used to be available and have it come in.
Plus, there are, I know even the post office, of course, for years, I'm not sure that it's done quite as much anymore, but there would be all types of products that would come through, whether it be, everyday items like shampoo and stuff, but also food items like types of soup mixes and things of that nature that were food that were considered basically junk mail that didn't get returned to the supplier. If it wasn't deliverable, it had to be destroyed. And I remember being in Boston at the time as a supervisor in one of the big post office, and I could never understand that. But there were legalities involved with it, is the fact that they were liable if the product, there was something wrong with it. And you could see that side of it, but it always amazed me of all the waste. And that was just, those were simple products, but it's still, I'm sure they were, more important food products and stuff that people say, you know what, it's better to just get rid of it than to take a chance on somebody getting sick on it or whatever.
Well,
Is that?
they need to realize that there is a law, which is a federal law, and it's called the Good Samaritan Act.
Yep.
And they are not liable once it passes through their system. I've been ServSafe certified, and anything that goes past our checking that goes to the food pantries and so forth is very, very safe. If we have a food drive or whatever, we get a variety of different items, and we have a room where we sort everything, because a pantry would like a case of, say, spaghetti sauce, more than just one of this and one of that. And if you were to see the warehouse, there are charts on what's good, what's bad. Don't use dented cans, the dates and things on things. And everybody is trained to be able to be sure that nothing goes out that shouldn't go out. Because oftentimes people will say, well, so-and-so passed away and here's all their food or whatever, and we make sure that it's all dated and so forth. Although people don't realize that you can use things that are past the expiration date. If you think about, say, the Mormons, they keep things for years and years. It just loses a little nutritional value. It doesn't mean that it's not a good product. We don't want things that are 5 years old, but if it's, a couple of days, and very oftentimes, different stores and things, especially like with dairy and stuff, they'll give us stuff that's close to the date. But the point being that if somebody's going to a food pantry, they're going to use it right away anyway, because they're not going to store it for 3 weeks and say, I have plenty of milk or bread or whatever. So it usually gets used right away. We get things like that often with different truckers or stores typically cannot take anything that's less than 2 months on the date. So if they have something that, if a trucker comes and it's not to their satisfaction, I often have truckers call and say, if you ordered chocolate pudding and they delivered vanilla pudding, they might say, well, we refuse it. So a trucker, rather than bring it all the way back to wherever they come from, Michigan or wherever, will call me and say, can you take a pallet of vanilla pudding? It was refused. There's nothing wrong with it. It's absolutely good to eat. But oftentimes we get food that way. So people need to, realize that that's, one of the ways that the food comes in. And we're very, very good about making sure that everything that everybody gets is very nutritious.
And I also know, as you pointed out, I was thinking that, most of us know and I'm one of these ones that tends to really look at the product, that a lot of times it doesn't say used by, it says best by. And it's best by this date because, as you said, that's guaranteed that maybe the flavoring or whatever is going to be, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the product being good or bad.
Right. And there actually is no law stating that they have to put that on there.
Right.
We all do the smell test. If something looks great and smells great, then we figure it's okay. Not necessarily, but I've been doing this for 20 years, and there has never been anybody that's gotten ill off our food. So it's always been very, very safe, and I would never feed anything to anybody that I wouldn't eat myself, and as well as all the pantries, But we do rely a lot on the stores for things like that, the close to dates and things like that. Typically, a pantry like Stone Soup or another one in the county, they would go to a store and pick up the day-old bread, or the vegetables that you go in the store, and we tend to go to the produce and pick out the perfect apple. So if there's an apple with a little bit of a bruise or something, then they tend to pull them out, and they'll give those to the food pantries. They give the good ones too, but it's a perfectly healthy apple.
Right.
And so that's a lot of the stuff that we'll get. It will be that way as well.
And let's face it, we've all gone, or at least I have numerous times gone into my refrigerator, and especially when I wasn't fortunate enough to have a lovely wife taking care of me, and you go in there and you'd have apples, and everything else would be bruised and half, and you just, whatever, cut it off, and
Yeah.
so. But that is important, and the reason why I even brought that up is, people, even with donating, tend to think, oh well, I don't know, this product really isn't any good, And I know I've been guilty of that myself in the past, or I don't know what it is. Maybe you folks can tell me, but it seemed like whenever, like the kids years ago when they were in school and stuff would, or even the grandkids now, have a food drive or something at school, and they're looking for something to bring in. You go, and it's always a can of cranberry sauce or something. And I don't know if that's or squash pie filling or something, pumpkin pie filling.
Well, that stuff's great now. Yeah. Right now, I can remember one year we got so much pumpkin pie filling. I had pumpkin pie filling for 20 months. But it doesn't tend to be that way anymore. But there's always, and this is another thing that I tell people for food drives. A lot of times we'll buy things on sale, buy one, get one free. Right. Okay, so you go, oh yeah, I'll try that. And then it's something you don't care for, like beets.
Right. Exactly.
But, so you buy one, get one free, and you don't care for it, so it's sitting in your cupboard. So what do you do with it? You say, here, take this, bring this to a food pantry, We oftentimes, although Kathy didn't get any this year, but I did, the Girl Scouts, when they sold the Girl Scout cookies, they had a whole bunch extra, so they donate them,
Awesome.
Sometimes folks will have a big function at their work, an end of the year or a holiday party or whatever. They can donate that food as well, because I have 5 soup kitchens that I help. So as long as we know the ingredients in a product, and it can be used right away, I can take that and give it to a soup kitchen. That's awesome. And they can use it.
That's so important.
Yes, there's a lot of different things, and when in doubt, ask.
Right.
And we can always find a home for pretty much everything. I got a whole tractor trailer load one time of 2 different products. I got one of bananas because they were still green and the store refused them. I had to keep them in the dark for 2 weeks, but they finally turned, and then it's like, hurry, everybody take bananas. Right. And also I got a whole tractor trailer load of lettuce. I got the lettuce because it didn't say organic on it. It was organic. They were bringing it to an organic food store, but they forgot to put the organic label on it, so I got it all.
So it's even a higher quality,
presumably. Exactly. Now, I don't know about everybody else, but if you try and buy organic, it's twice as much money. But there's a lot of reasons why we get things donated. So never think that it can't be donated, because there's always a home.
And as you say, the people that brought down one can that you've been, and I see Ray and his wife, B, out there all the time collecting, and you see, and sometimes you think of, wow, do I pay? But it adds up, and it means a lot. Most of us have been in a situation like that. I know I have a daughter and her 3 kids, and my youngest daughter in Indiana that had gone through a breakup. And if it wasn't for that type of thing, boy, she would be in, a lot of problems.
Both Kathy and I have been in that situation. When I was raising I have 3 boys, but when I was raising my 2, I can remember having a box of macaroni and cheese and a hot dog and thinking, what am I going to do for the rest of the week? Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of good people out there. And I know that originally, when I had moved back here from a bad situation and needed help, I had a job I was starting in 2 weeks. And I went to the city, and they said, well, go to this food pantry, and they'll give you help. And I had gone, and they said, well, do you have an electric bill, or do you have something to prove you're here? And I said, no, I just moved into town. I'm starting a job in 2 days. I just need help for 2 days. And I was refused. Yep. And I went, and I felt really, really bad, because I said, it's a waitress job. In 2 days, I will have money to feed my children. Right. and I was refused. And I went back to the city, and fortunately there was another food pantry that was very opening and helped me. And it was actually friends of mine running the food pantry, so I had felt very bad that I had gone to school with these people and I was in this situation. But having gone through that, I very much encourage, I have meetings with all the different pantries, and I very, very much encourage people not to refuse anybody. Now, that was years and years ago, so I don't want anybody to think that that's the way it is
Right.
now. But if somebody comes to a food pantry and needs help, even if they're from Michigan, Canada, wherever they're from, if they come to your food pantry, I always say, help them that one time. Help them and then say, you know what, let's find you a pantry that's closer to home that can help you. And help them find that, but never refuse anybody, because you have no idea. It's very humbling to have to go to a food pantry in the first place. Nobody wants to be there. And usually people will wait till they have absolutely nothing in their cupboard because they're thinking something's going to happen. So always help them, then help them find something closer to their area.
Right.
And if they need help with other things, you know, there's always 211 that they can call to find out where to find shelter, to find other things. And we all have been kind of educated into that as well. It's very much a social service thing. But I always say never refuse anybody, because you have no idea why they're there.
Right.
And you have no idea what their situation is. And
And-
we have no right to ask.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because I know you folks are in the trenches. So, you know a lot. Sometimes you probably don't even realize half the things you know until somebody says, gee, I just moved in, we're doing okay, but I don't have a bed for my youngster. Or I have no idea where to, and just by the fact that you've been here and that you're in the trenches, you do learn a lot of this stuff without even realizing it sometimes, I'm sure.
We find a lot of seniors, like my generation, that never asked for help or
Right.
had to. When you could live on just one salary and bring up your kids and you got to stay home. I mean, those days are few and far between
Right.
today. And it's like they'll cry and say, I'm so embarrassed. I don't want to be here. And I always take their hand and say, everybody here is for the same reason. They're here for the same reason you are. They need help. They need food. Don't be embarrassed, And it seems to help a little to know that they're not going to be going, oh, look at that one. Oh, see her? I see her at church. Or that. Because they're there for the very same reason.
I think very few people, well, I hope that this is the case, but I really have not heard. I mean, years ago you did hear people talk like that.
Oh, yeah.
But nowadays even the people that are doing well are one paycheck away from being in the same
Yep.
boat.
Well, that's why when I first started volunteering on Bacon Street, they used to wait outside, and they'd be out there for hours. And when they asked me to become co-director, I said only on one condition: they come in off the sidewalk. No, because you'd see them when cars go by, they'd look in towards the building. And as I said, in those days, there was probably, 30 people, if that was the most. But it's still, it was embarrassing to them. They didn't want to be seen outside. But Helen tells that when they first started there, they couldn't even stand in front of the building. They used to have to go down Pearson's Lane so that they weren't in plain sight. But that was over by the time I did. And somebody said, well, that means we'll have to clean that room. I said, I'll clean the room. I'll be co-director if they come in off the street. And that's when they came in off the street.
I think, and you could put most people, even if you're fortunate enough to have a good paying job or at least being able to survive, and you're able to go to the store and shop for products, are you the person that goes into Walmart? Or are you the person that's able to go into one of the most expensive stores in town? And so you even see people, all people have to do is just think about their own lives a little bit, and then put themselves in that situation. And we all experience it in one form or another. It may not be going to a food pantry, but you do, experience it and understand that, some people do have, a problem, maybe be a little bit embarrassed about having to be in that situation. But we all are in one way or another.
And God
Well, you know, with the holidays coming up, and when I do the talks at the schools, I talk to, and of course, you know, there's no Nintendo now. I don't know, it's Sega or something. I don't know about those things. I've never played video games. But I talk to the kids at the schools, and I say to them, think about this. Imagine that it's Christmas time, and you're saying, oh, I hope I get that special Nintendo game for Christmas, and I hope that I get that new coat, and I hope that I get, and you're thinking all these things that you're hoping to get for Christmas. I said, now, imagine that you're saying, I hope I get that meal, you know? I hope I get that meal. I hope I get to be able to sit down with my family and have a good meal and be together.
Right.
And that, to me, is the ultimate. Because nobody thinks about that. Nobody thinks about, you know, everybody walks around, well, not everybody, but they walk around with blinders on and they think me, 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 me. And if you think about how special it is to be able to provide that meal for people to sit down and be together and have that meal together, it's so much different. It's the simple things. It's not the new car. It's not the. See, I get so emotional when I think about it. It's not. It's being able to do that. You know,
Right.
that makes the big difference to people.
Now,
you know,
and this brings up another point. The folks that want to help, a lot of times, may be, you know, maybe because they know some people that go there, or maybe they're reluctant a little bit too, because, gee, how do I do it without making myself look like I'm going to go in and save the day, when really they genuinely want to just help. How do they do that? I mean, can they actually just call up you folks and say, look, and find out what the best way that they can either volunteer
That's
or
number one, volunteers.
Well, how do they do that,
Well,
Kathy?
Walk in the door any Monday or Wednesday, or call the number you're going to put up on the screen. We really, really need volunteers. And I find that the volunteers that we've had for a good number of years. Some of them have passed away. And because we're mostly all, my generation, we do have a couple from the People's Choice that come when they have a Monday or a Wednesday off, because they like to help. And but the main thing is a lot of our volunteers started as clients, and it's their way of giving back and getting food, but like they earned it, which they don't have to do, but they're dependable, and we're really short on volunteers. We really need, you could either do a Monday or a Wednesday. It's only from 8 to 11:30, and if you can't come, you know, like
well, you say it's Monday and Wednesday, but they can do food drives. They can have a food drive at their work, at anything. That's one thing I say. Everybody can help in some way, okay? Whether it's bringing in that one can, whether it's volunteering, whether it's having a food drive at their work, and even if their passion is in food, as long as you're helping someone, help your neighbor, help.
Yeah.
You can see somebody next door and you don't even know if they need help. If you see them struggling, ask the question, because they're not going to approach you. You know, tell them where your food pantry is. Tell them to dial 211. But as Kathy said, the generation is the older generation that have been doing this. And I truly believe that if you start people young knowing about volunteering, then they will continue with it through life. And like I said, everybody walks around so busy with their own lives that they don't look what's happening around them.
When we go to meetings and stuff with all the other food pantries and stuff, I look around at all these faces, and they're all in their 70s, in their late 60s, and there's no young people doing this.
But in all fairness, too, it's now where people have to work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's two family households that they're working. It used to be years ago, and I don't want to look like I'm picking on one generation, one sex or the other, but the women would stay home
Yep.
years ago, and the men would work. So the women would do all this volunteer work and go out and work at the hospitals, as I was a candy striper, and do all of these different things. And now it's two people working
Yep.
and trying to take care of a household and just trying to survive on their own. And even if they're not working, there's so many different things to pay a babysitter is really, really tough. So there are a lot of times when we can work around their schedule for the volunteering if we have to have a food drive, or, so they can do it on the weekends rather than during the week. But it's the younger ones and it's the elderly. And the generation in between, the gap in between has grown wide, whereas they need to be educated and they need to, be doing things. The good thing is that a lot of the schools now have community service hours in their school. So the kids have to go and do some community service wherever they want to do it. And oftentimes I find if the kids come down to our warehouse and help us, that they enjoy it, that they have no idea what was going on, and they come back. They'll come back and do their summers with us and things like that.
Well, now, the thing I was thinking about earlier when you both were talking about this, we are busy, most people, and that group in between, like you say, they're not necessarily one or two staying home. Sometimes they take turns going to work and staying with the kids and this and that, so they're busy. But is it just food, or can you actually take cash from them? Do you have that ability to take a donation monetarily?
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
Because that seems to me to be, sometimes people say, well, gee, I really don't have leftover food, but what do I do? Do I go to the store and just buy it, but I don't really know what they need, and because let's face it, people, maybe don't have food stocked to the hilt, and then they decide to clean the cupboard. They just, pretty bare minimum, so they can actually.
Well, when we have food drives, we have a list of different things that we need, because people will say, well, I don't know what to get you.
Yeah.
And it's everything from a box of Jell-O, so if they only have 50 cents, although I don't know what Jell-O costs now, right up to what we call a one-course meal, which is like beef stew or something, so everything's in there. So there's a real variety of prices that they can spend so that everybody can feel like they can give you something. Oftentimes people like the idea of handing you something. Because that makes them feel good. It makes us feel it's done something. But there are many, many times when that dollar can go a lot further. As Kathy said, she's now buying food, so that helps with that, as well as there's always the expenses of the gas to go pick up the food and the delivery of the food,
that's right.
and so forth and so on. And the expenses of the electric bill and things like that. So it's still helping people because it's keeping us going. So the cash donations are very, very, very much needed. I am a paid person. If I didn't get paid, I couldn't work the 65 hours doing it. But I make less now than I made 16 years ago. And then I was pretty much making minimum wage. And I went a year, as 6 months ago, it was a year I went without pay. So fortunately, I had enough left that I could live on what I lived on, because I don't believe in a lot of material things. I think you don't need a lot to survive, and so forth and so on. And
Frugal.
very frugal.
Me too. I can't even afford,
You can't even
the
afford the
bottom
second
half
half
of my
of your
pants.
pants.
So it's like,
But and it's not about the money, but you still need the gas is so high for the trucks. We have a 14-foot box truck that we drive around picking up food with, and we go everywhere from New Hampshire up through Augusta and Bangor, and we pick up food to collect for all these pantries, and we do a couple of deliveries as well. So you can imagine what it costs for gas and for electric and all of that. So the money absolutely goes a long way, and it does buy, for instance, the turkeys that we need. That's not something that we get donated, and I got a very, very good deal on turkeys, but where we just moved and we have such a a low budget and so forth and so on. I could not solicit money for turkeys this year because there was just, we needed a freezer, we need so many things. So what my board had said was if somebody offers money for the turkeys, then you can spend the money on the turkeys, but otherwise you can't. So last year we had $8,000 to spend on turkeys. Now that seems like a lot, but I have 47 pantries that need turkeys. So if you think about it, I mean, and if you go in and you buy one turkey for say $12, think about how many $12 is I need for those. And the minimum amount that a pantry has asked for is 50 turkeys. Some of them 150, some of them 200. Well, obviously I can't do that. So I've said, could you please go out and solicit money or turkeys on your own, and whatever you can't get, then I can get. So that's one of the reasons that Kathy wanted to come on, is because she really needs turkeys this year for the holidays. But we got $5,000 donated for turkeys this year, and last year we had 8. So we got less money for less turkeys and more people to serve.
Well, you know, if you leave here with Steve and I, you at least have 2 turkeys to hit.
That's true. You're hiding in here because you know it's hunting season.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. And you have to realize that a turkey actually will, you know, people will say, well, you know, people need to eat, so why are you spending money on a one-day meal when you could use a lot of meals for that? But you know what? That turkey will actually feed a family for 2 or 3 days.
Absolutely.
So it's not like you're really doing the one meal. You're doing, you know, for the week. So, and I also say to people, holidays are very important. People need to feel some sense of normalcy, even if they are, you know, hunger insecure. And I hate the word insecure. I like hungry, because people are hungry. And I say to them when they say, well, you know, you're getting this turkey and it costs so much money. I say, well, are you going to go without a turkey this year? Are you going to go without the holiday? And of course they're going to say, well, no. So you want to try and it's not just the hunger in the belly, it's the hunger in the mind. You want to make people feel like they belong and there's a sense of security with it. So it's very, very important. And Kathy, how many people do you have on your list this year already?
We closed it off at 100 families because St. Joe, the parishes are doing it too, and someone else that escapes me at the moment, because I don't want to have to disappoint anybody, so that if we do have extra and turkeys and we've gone over, we've given out the 100 and that, then yes, we will do for whatever we have left. But I don't know because it's been so tough this year. But then I got a call from a church, and they're coming Monday with a donation for us to buy turkeys. And so it depends how. Right now, I think we got 2 birds sitting in one of the freezers in there. But, and it's coming up quick. I mean, it's the 8th, but it's...
I know, it doesn't feel like it. But one of the other things was that usually a couple of months before I'll start stocking up on turkeys. And I haven't been able to do that this year because we don't have a freezer. So I had everything that I had planned on stocking up on had to be given away right away, you know. So there's that as well. So, yeah.
Well, if you had to, you know, if there's one thing maybe that we haven't covered and you'd like to maybe let folks know right now, you can do so. But I also want to tell people that, you know, if you belong maybe to an organization and you want to help out, and maybe you've got to bring the idea to the group and you're going to say, well, I saw it on a TV show, but you need a little bit more information, you can certainly call either Kathy or Jody, but you also, if you'd like to, give us a call at the station. We'll make you a copy of the DVD. You can bring it. You can show it to them. They can see firsthand what the situation is really like out there. Or, as I said, we're going to have your phone numbers, your email, your website.
Yep.
Contact these folks. Really, it's imperative. This is the time.
Yeah. One thing about Bea and Ray, I don't really know what we would do without them. I mean, she'll stand out there in the cold or 100 degrees in the summertime, and that money there. Now, we only did 1 poll this year. I generally do here, but I couldn't this year with doctor's appointments. But she covered the Ross Center, and she made almost $500, 400 and some odd dollars. Now, that money, when she does them in front of the other places, Big Lots and them, that money is for cereal, which we buy by the big monstrous cases for $1 a bag, because it goes the farthest. That goes for the cans of tuna fish that are 69 cents a can at Hannaford. So we have a whole list of where everything is cheap. That helps us fill in for the stuff that we need every week to stick on those shelves.
And I know that if I ever have to look for B and for Ray, I know that I could go down probably any given weekend down to Martin's and
Yep.
catch them right out in front in the dollar store there, right
Yep.
out in front there, or a
Yep.
bunch of other places too.
They're
but
great to us. Martin's has always been great to us, and Big Lots has opened since they've come with open arms. People are really good. You know, I wish they got more credit for what they do.
And we do very much appreciate the volunteers for everybody that does everything. And
Yeah.
it's all about all of us working together. I want to make the point on the turkey situation too, that sometimes people think in the back of their minds, well, people go here and there and get a turkey and get 2 or 3 different ones, different baskets from different places. Well, we've come up with a system where everybody checks with everybody else. So if people think that the system's being abused, it's not, because we try really hard to make sure that we can help as many people as possible and that each family gets just what they need, and so that they're not going to 2 or 3 places, both at Christmas and at Thanksgiving. And people have been really, really good, the people that come to the pantries often, and many places will have it like you go in and you pick what you need. You may have a peanut butter allergy, so to make a bag of food for somebody and put peanut butter in that is silly.
it's a waste. Yeah.
So they are allowed so many items off the shelf, and then so much bread and so much produce and so forth and so on. And people are very good about saying, no, I don't need that this week. I still have that. I need this. Or my children are allergic to that, so could you give me this? And so everybody gets what they need. And the pantries all work on a percentage basis, so that if your pantry were to help 50 families and the other one helps 100, then you get what you need and they get what they need. So nobody's sitting on extra food. Nobody has extra food, but everybody gets the same. The goal is to make all the pantries work the same and run the same and help as many people as possible. So if anybody has any suggestions that are helpful in that respect, we respect their opinion and we'd love to hear from them. But just so you know, we really, really try hard not to have anybody abusing the system and to get what they need. There's just too much need out there for that. And you may find 99.9% of people that go to a food pantry really, really need the help. Some people go once, some people have to go more than once, but everybody's entitled to come whenever they need it. And oftentimes, as Kathy said, the ones that needed it years ago are now the ones that are volunteering. Oftentimes, we'll hear people come back and hand them $20 or $25 and say, you know what, you helped me when I needed it, now I want to help you.
He hears that all the time.
Yep, and that's a very, very important point. And nobody should feel ashamed if they need the help, that they should always come and get it, and they'll be treated with respect. They take names and how many in the family the first time they come, and after that, that's it. And everybody's treated with respect, and we try and help. And if they have an emergency need, we'll help with that as well.
Right.
So there are a lot of pantries that will open just for emergencies.
We'll get a call like from York County Community Action that somebody called them and said there was a family that was in need, and I'll say how many, or Helen, how many are in the family, and blah, blah, and we'll make up a thing. And even one of the workers, Kat Jansen, was great for coming, picking them up and bringing them to the people. In that sometimes it's only an emergency thing. If your car breaks down and you need the car to get to work and you have to buy food, well, you got to get the car fixed, and we'll give you the food.
Boy, I tell you, this has been enlightening, I think. I mean, you always think sitting on the outside what goes on, but it's great when I have you folks on. You get a better
And Stone Soup is all volunteers. I get to sign and pay the bills and sign the check. It says co-director, me and Helen, but we don't make a
Right.
dime.
And again, it's just me and one part-time
Yeah.
worker. And we have about probably 35 volunteers on a basis, but I make so little, I could be a client myself.
No,
So,
I can imagine.
you know, they say that, oh, yeah, well, you know, this one gets paid or that one gets paid, but I mean, I have to live too, and I have gone many times without a paycheck to make sure that people get what they want. But one of the points I want to make is everything that we have is donated in and donated back out free of charge. There is no cost to any of the pantries for anything that we have, and we give out anywhere between, depending on the size of the pantry, 1,000 to 1,600 pounds per month to every single pantry. We gave out 1.5 million pounds of food last year, all free of charge. So,
Well, I think our time is about up. We actually have some
Okay.
bunch of other shows getting ready to tape.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, both of you, Kathy,
Thank
Duke,
you. Good to see you.
and Jody Bissonette.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much for coming on. It was great seeing you both. And don't think like this is going to be a one-time deal every year. I mean, we have Thanksgiving to get through, and hey, if you feel as though you need to talk about some other things that have come up or maybe some other needs that you have before Thanksgiving, even give us a call and we'll definitely squeeze you in. And then, of course, you have another holiday coming up right around the corner.
Christmas,
Several
yeah.
of them.
and
Yeah.
anybody that has any questions about anything or wants to, you know, pursue it further and would love to talk to us, we'd love to give them a tour of what we do, and they're
Yep.
very welcome to call us or email us, and we'd love to talk to them.
Great. Excellent. Thanks.
I'm volunteer.
Thanks very much.
Okay,
Thank you for having us.
And folks, thanks for watching, and I hope this has been helpful. I know it has me. I have a greater understanding, I think, every time these folks come on. So please take a look at the end of the program and take a look at the phone numbers and website, email. And by all means, as they both said, they take food, but you know they're not against either volunteers for sure or people donating cash. It goes to a great cause, and they make sure it goes and it's spent and given the way it's supposed to. So, thanks very much for tuning in, and hope to see you again next time.